Today, I want to answer a burning question. Is it too late to invest in the UK property market? Now, before we get into the details, before we talk about the market right now, what I want to do is talk to you about my experience, the last 5-6 years of me working in property. Because this isn't a question that I've only been asked recently. This is a question that I've been asked multiple times throughout the last 5-6 years of working in property. And I want to really understand why we get asked a question before we answer it. I started in property as COVID hit. I got stuck in the UK. I was looking for something to do. Property was always a big ambition of mine. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book that I absolutely loved, fell in love with property, and then from there wanted to get within the industry. So I started working for a company where we worked with investors and we started sourcing property when I first got into it. What I found was everybody was saying the same thing, and it wasn't just something new. This question has been going on for years and years and years and years. People ask, is it too late to be investing in UK property? They're the people that have been asking the question back in 2008. They're the people that have been asking the question throughout the whole of the 2010s. They're the people that when I first got involved in property and COVID hit, people were saying, is it too late to invest in UK property as COVID had hit? Now, if we look back at COVID was such an amazing time to invest in the market because as we know, the market rose substantially. Since I first started in COVID, I have worked with hundreds of investors. I have sourced hundreds of properties. I've also bought 20 plus of my own. There are people that I've worked with that have taken action. They've understood why the UK property market is a fantastic position right now and has been for the past 5 years. There's also investors that I've worked with for years and years that keep asking the same question and keep watching the industry from afar. That's why I want to answer that question today. So what I want to do is I want to jump into the laptop. I want to show you a couple of graphs to back up what I'm saying, and then we can answer the question in full. So what I've got here is I've got a graph which shows the nationwide house prices, and this is all types of houses in the UK, which is from the first quarter of 2000 to the first quarter of 2026. This is something I want to delve into to understand what has happened if you were in any moment or any year to say, is it too late to invest in the UK? What we see here is if at any year we'd have asked this question and we fast forward 5-10 years from there, we will notice that there is an increase in the price. And what I want to do is I want to take 2008, for example. So if we scooch over to 2008, Q1, average house prices were 179,000. This is when the market took a big crash, okay? So if we were to fast forward 10 years, which would be 2018, what we'll see is the average house price of 211,000. So when we were talking in 2008, if is now the right time to buy in the UK, have we missed the opportunity? We'll notice that if we're investing for the long term, if we'd have waited the 10 years, the house prices go up. If we pick any other year on here, you'll notice that the 5 and 10 year period, that increase is there. And we notice the trajectory over, and this is 26 years of data. This is what I love about property. Property is the best industry to look at for anyone looking to invest that wants to mitigate risk. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nuances that we need to focus on. That's where I come into a lot of the time with investors, but the overall trajectory, the overall performance of property, you can see over a 5-10 longer year period, house prices increase. So another area that we talked about is when I first got into property properly is COVID. So the average house prices in COVID was 217,000 pounds. We then hit that big trajectory, that big spike, and over the years, the house prices went up and on average to 273,000. That's over 2.5 years. So for those people back in 2020 when COVID hit that were saying, is now a good time to invest in the UK property market, we missed out on substantial growth. And then we come to today where the average house price is 274,930, which is very similar to what it was at its peak after COVID. And if we look at the last 26 years of data, we can see, and when we're in a downward trend, we can see that we bounce back over time and that increases. So that's where we are right now. We've just had a bit of a downward trend into a little bit of a spike, and the trajectory is in that way. So this is taking the data of the average house prices throughout the UK. What I want to do now is I want to delve even further into that. So if we look at the north versus the south, if we compare buying down in London to buying up in where I am, which is in Yorkshire and Humberside, we take northwest as well as an example, we notice even bigger trends. So this is from the year 2025 to the year 2026, data back from February. we can notice that Yorkshire had a 3.9% annual growth. This is in a market where we're fairly stagnant. We also notice that Northwest had a 3.1% annual growth. If we look at London, they have minus 3.3%. Gone are the days now where we look at London as the focal point for capital growth. We're in a point where affordability is no longer there. So investors are looking in the north, which is driving the prices up, which in time will grow of capital growth and increase our investments as well. Another graph that I want to show you. So what we've done there is we've looked at the past, we've looked at right now, we need to look at the future. If we take Savills are a UK estate agency, and we look at the regional house price forecast for 2026 to 2030, what we notice is even further trajectory to back up the claims that we're making. If we look at Yorkshire and Humberside, we'll notice over the next 5 years to 2030, we're seeing a potential 28.8% capital growth. If we were to purchase a property right now for £100,000, in 5 years, that property will be just shy of £130,000. That's £28,800 of capital growth, of equity that is ours, as well as the rental income and etc. So this further backs up the claim of why, which I'm answering a question now, why now is a brilliant time to invest. Just to finalise on the timing of now, as I said, we've done the past, we've done the present, we've done the future. Let's focus on now. For those watching it that want an answer, that want the data, that want to go, I have X amount, I want to invest, but is now the right time? So for those that are watching this video, wondering whether to invest and asking themselves, is it too late to invest in the UK property market? I would be saying the complete opposite. Now is a perfect time to invest. And right here is a graph that I want to quickly run over, which are 3 reasons, 3 points that I want to make. And that is talking about, number 1, motivated sellers. So right now we're at the point where we have a very high amount of motivated sellers. The examples we've got is in 2021 when we had a boom. We had a very low amount of motivated sellers in COVID, and we have had a very high demand of buyers. Demand versus supply. Demand outweighed the supply so much we saw a massive increase in property prices. That continued to 2022. That then changed in 2023. Supply increased due to the interest rates. Demand decreased due to interest rates. And that had that stagnant approach, that had that slight dip that we saw earlier. That continued in 2024. That right now is the biggest it's been in years. So what does that mean? That means that there are ample amount of opportunities right now to be finding the properties. We are currently in a buyer's market with interest rates looking to come down, with the property market hitting a supply that's quite stagnant. All that's going to showcase is a big trajectory over the next few years, which Savills have already shown. We've looked at the future. That's exactly where we're going. If we also look in terms of the buyer competition, right now we're in a low buyer competition, which means that there's more opportunities, as we've talked about. And if we finally look at the market direction, which we looked at is the previous, again, we're looking at data from previous, from today, and from the future. If we look at the previous data in terms of the direction, right now we're in a recovering market with a trajectory future that we've looked at. So again, that offers the ample opportunity to prove that it is not too late to invest in the UK property market. And actually right now is as good of a time as it's been in years and years and years, and it will be in the future. I bought my first property back in 2021. I've been buying houses ever since. The first property I bought for £103,000 at a point where COVID was peaked, at a point where people were asking the question and believing the answer was yes, it's too late to invest in property. That property was purchased for £103,000. It was purchased very well. That's what I do for a living, so I hope it was. It's now been valued at £175,000. If we look at my portfolio and we look at through the years of when I've purchased, every single property has risen in value and built equity for me. There's 2 reasons for that. 1, the market looks after itself. The market continues to increase. And number 2, we buy with equity built in. And this is where my service, this is where my strengths and my background come into it. We buy properties with the equity built in and allow the market to continue and take care of the rest. So if you're sat there and you're watching this video and you've looked at the data, because again, I'm very data driven myself and I like to mitigate the risk. I like to be confident in my investments. So if you're sat there watching this and you're coming to the conclusion of going, I think George may be right, George might be onto something, hopefully we're thinking that, then what we'll realize is now is not too late and now is a fantastic time to be buying property. However, if we don't have the knowledge, if we don't have the time, if we're watching this going, George, I'd love to, but it's just not something I'm capable of right now myself. You might be based in the south and realize maybe the north is a better option to buy. That's a service that we offer. So I'll put a link in the description. So if you want to speak to me directly, if you want to have a conversation so we can go through the data in more depth, or we can go through your situation to understand how you can put your capital to work within the property world, click on the link, book a call, and we'll have a chat and see how we can help you put your money into property. If you want to see more videos like this, like the video and subscribe to the channel.